Hi, I am so happy to have you, Dr. Felicia, to be on the show today, Evie Unbounded. I actually found you on Instagram because recently I just did an interview, Ashley, who is an advocate for PCOS. And then I think just through that, you show up, and then I'm like, oh, you're the guru. You're like the doctor, the medical side of it. But then you focus not just on PCOS, you also focus on hormone and perimenopause, which is another big topic I really want to get into. That kind of gave away my age, but me and my girlfriend are starting to worry about that. So when I saw you, and then I also noticed you even write a book, Feel Your Cup, I was like, I like that title. It's very interesting. I definitely have to have you on our show. So please introduce us. Introduce yourself to us. It's still early morning for me. I know you're in East Coast, and I'm in West Coast. I'm in LA. So tell us more about you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, first, thanks so much, Evie, for having me on your show. I'm honored that you reached out after speaking with Ashley, who's a phenomenal advocate in the PCOS space. So I'm super excited that you had that opportunity as well. So I'm Dr. Felecia Sumner. I'm a board certified family medicine physician by trade originally, but I found myself with my own personal story that made me way more passionate about the hormone space over time. So long story short, I'm a mama of three and a wife. And after our first child, I was super duper tired. I was told by many doctors that I'm just a tired mom. Like, this is just what I'm supposed to deal with for the rest of my life. I mean, like bone deep fatigue. Evie, it was like I would wake up after getting the good 8, 9 hours of sleep and still feel like I've run a marathon. It was inexplicable to me. Did not make any sense that I was supposed to live my life that way forever or until I stopped being a mommy. So thankfully, I had a patient who was dealing with her own circumstances that conventional medicine just couldn't answer. I started kind of like going through forums and all these things, and I discovered this practice of medicine called functional medicine, which is really about getting to the root of illness as opposed to just figuring out what. We have to figure out, well, why did this happen in the first place? And if we can figure out why, we can actually reverse it. So as I was trying to work on this patient and learn this functional medicine thing on my own, I thought, you know what, why don't I just try to do functional medicine on myself? So I drew all these different labs and figured out that I had adrenal type PCOS, which unfortunately no other doctor could figure out at the time. And I had a severe vitamin D deficiency. And once
Wait,
I was
can you go back to what's adrenal PCOS for the audience, including myself? Like, what is that? Yes.
Absolutely. So, as you've talked about in previous podcasts, say with Ashley, PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. And
Yes.
frankly, it's kind of like this catch-all term, where it's basically a hormonal imbalance is the best way to put it. And for a lot of women, that will manifest as high levels of insulin or high blood sugar or high testosterone, and that can lead to ovary cyst on the ovaries or infertility or weight gain and things of that nature. In the world of functional medicine, we dive a little bit deeper and we realize that there's not just one type of PCOS. There are actually four, if not possibly more, types of PCOS.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
the most common that we're familiar with is an insulin-driven PCOS, which is, most of those individuals might be overweight or have prediabetes or diabetes. But there are other types, for example, post-pill PCOS, where someone might be on birth control for a long time, they try to stop
Yeah.
it, and that causes hormonal imbalances that can lead to the PCOS dynamic. Inflammatory PCOS, where you just got a whole bunch of inflammation in your body, and that can lead to PCOS, as well as the one that I was dealing with which is adrenal type, where your stress glands, which are supposed to help you with fight or flight and resting when you need to, can be kind of overworked or dysfunctional and lead to these hormonal imbalances.
I
Yeah,
did. I might
right.
have that on my way. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I figured this out after lots of fun years in medical school and residency and being a mom at that time, which could be a decent scenario and equation for burning out your adrenals. And I was told I had pre-diabetes, and no one could really explain why, because I frankly wasn't really overweight. I wasn't eating horrifically, none of those things, but my sugar was going up and I was really tired. And after running the right test and realizing like my cortisol is through the roof, my stress hormone, and I also
Oof.
had those other dynamics where my testosterone was a little bit on the higher side, I fell into that criteria for adrenal PCOS. So,
And this all happened when you have your first child, right?
for a first child.
Wow. First time being a mom, first time was like, that must be, yeah.
Right. And I mean, I had reasonable, explanation for being semi-tired. Like my kid, she was nursing. We were up every 2 to 3 hours. But I've been there, done that. Like I went through residency. Like I was up every 2 to 3 hours delivering a baby or, dealing
Yeah.
with an admission. So to me, it still wasn't enough of an explanation why I literally had to drag myself out of bed every morning. And thankfully, after figuring out that diagnosis, I worked on healing myself, and I feel way, way, way better. No, don't have to drink coffee every morning. Like I can get through every day like a normal human being. Outside of
Hmm.
all of the other things it was causing, like chin hairs and acne that I didn't realize were attributed to adrenal PCOS at the time. And outside of that, after healing myself, I realized, shoot, we really have a deficiency here in the world of conventional medicine. Like there's really something missing. And that really, outside of this patient who led me down that path, after realizing, like, wow, I had to heal myself through this, then who knows how many other people are walking around completely blind and their doctors might be telling them everything's normal because that's what we've learned, or didn't learn.
Yeah.
So it gave me a passion for understanding hormones a lot better and certifying and learning a lot more in the world of functional medicine. And that's where we are now. Long story, medium short.
Yeah, I was looking at how you came up with like a tool or like a quiz where people can take and figure out if they have PCOS or what they're lacking of. Can you tell me more about your test? And then so for women who not like we tend to self-diagnose a lot, not that we were trying to do that, but I'm just saying that is there like a tool for us, for the audience who listen to the podcast, can do something home or just do like a little quick self-assessment, just get some answer. As you know, a lot of time we just don't know what's going on. I was very frustrated, and you bring to the doctor can give you an answer. Is this like a little tool that we can do, and then we can at least get some idea what we should go from there? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, Evie. So there are little tools and there are larger tools. So
Yeah.
I do offer a hormone decoder quiz, which is a free quiz where any woman can just go on my Instagram or my website or whatever, and it's there in the link tree, to be able to give you hints as to if there likely is some kind of hormonal imbalance, if you're inflamed or if your metabolism might be sluggish, etc. But that, frankly, is just like the tip of the iceberg. The challenge is in the world of conventional medicine, a carpenter's only as good as their tools, right? And
Hmm.
so learn generally in that world how to follow a certain algorithm to get to prescribe X medicine, right? And unfortunately, if we don't have an answer outside of that algorithm, then we won't be looking for what's wrong because we won't have a way to fix it, right? So
Exactly.
there is a very comprehensive lab available to anyone, frankly, who wants to take a deeper dive than what your conventional doctor might be able to order. Unfortunately, it's not covered by insurance. It's something that many functional medicine doctors are advocating for, that at some point it will be. But right now it's not. I've told it to be called the hormone decoder panel, but if you even Google something called the Dutch Plus test or Dutch test, that test is one that you can take at home. And it's actually a urine test. It's not a blood test, which is typically what we get drawn if we get an
You're
order from our
right. Like the hormone
so
testing. You're right. Uh-huh.
exactly. So if your doctor were to order hormones, which is fantastic that they can take that step, they will
Normally
only
they don't. When you ask them for it, you still have to. If you have HMO, as you know, it's such a pain. Is you have to make an appointment with your PTP, and then you have to explain why for the doctor to prescribe you for doing the hormone testing for the blood work.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So if you overcome that whole entire hurdle, right, and they
Yeah.
order the blood work and you get a full panel of hormones. Unfortunately, in the blood, I hope this doesn't get too esoteric, but in the blood, we check for the total level of X hormone. So say we're checking for estrogen, we'll get the total amount of estrogen in your body. So we'll know if it's high or low, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that is, one, as women who are cycling, like you're still having your periods, that's only one point at one point in your day of one day of your cycle, right?
Oh.
So
Uh-huh.
your estrogen can be on day 13 of your cycle, could be very much different than what it might be on day 19. And
Mm-hmm.
especially it might be different at 10 a.m. compared to 4 p.m., right?
Wow. Mm-hmm.
That's a big problem. That's flaw number one. Then flaw number two is we're checking total levels of, let's say, estrogen. But what we are seeing is, okay, how much you've got in your body, but that doesn't equate to how much you're actually absorbing, using, breaking down into different what we call metabolites, because there is some estrogen that's really healthy for you, and there's some estrogen that could actually be harmful and inflammatory and possibly
Wow.
lead to increased risk of fibroids or even certain breast cancers, uterine cancers, etc. And so it's really important to be able to tell, how does my estrogen break down? Or when your doctor tests for a full level of cortisol, say stress hormone, again, it might be very different at 8 a.m. compared to 4 p.m. And that difference can make a huge, it can be the telltale sign between why I'm so tired all day, or why I'm wired but tired at night, or why I
Yeah.
can't sleep at night, or why I wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning. You won't know any of that if you're only testing at 8 a.m. So the cool thing
Mm.
about this test is we're not just testing your total level of hormones, we're testing not only how much you've got, but how does it break down into the healthy type, the inflammatory type, the testosterone that causes chin hairs, or the one that causes better libido, the one that gets you to build muscle, the one that gets you to build, to lose weight. All of those things we can test for by testing what we call these metabolites, how the hormones break down. And then we test that
So,
in a
sorry.
day.
So the doctor doesn't have that, right? So you probably have to get that, do like private or search called Dutch testing.
Yeah, so it depends on your doctor. If they are integrative trained or functional medicine trained, they will probably be more than willing to order that test. But here's the thing, Evie, I realized how much of a deficiency there is in this world of
Ugh.
functional medicine, and us as just human beings, to access this kind of information for ourselves. And so I actually built a whole platform online for any individual to order that test without doctors, say per se. Of course, we'd
Thank
want for
you.
you're welcome for them to be able to be a part of that journey, but if they can't or they won't, you still should have those tools available to yourself. So I call it the hormone decoder panel. That gives you access to the Rolls Royce of hormone testing, which is the Dutch Plus, and
Mm-hmm.
also where you can watch videos where I go through what each of these lab values mean and where to go next from there. So you can kind of DIY the next steps in your health. And ideally with a trusted healthcare provider. They might not be functional medicine trained, but at least they can help, hold your hand while you go through this process too. So I'll be happy to share that link with you and your listeners if you'd like.
Yes, for sure. So send that link to me, and I will make sure it's going to be posted in our podcast and description. More women or even men, right? So maybe men will have to go do hormone testing too. Who knows? That it would be really helpful for them. And that's what I was thinking. Like, first of all, you know, I wanted to get those testing, and the PTP, my primary doctor, would be like, "Why you need it?" Right? So it's not like I can just go and ask for it. And the best thing you just said to me that I'm really excited about is, I hate blood. This is the reason I can never be a doctor. And you're right, for hormone testing, they always have to draw your blood. And you just mentioned that for this, it's actually more comprehensive, and no blood draw is urine test. So I'm like, yes, this sounds great. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's urine test for the sex hormones and a spit swab for the stress hormones, but no pinprick. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. It's a tremendous test. It really is.
That's amazing. And from that, so because your own personal journey, and you have to find out all the testing, and like I said, a lot of times you don't know the cost. And when you go to see the doctor, you don't really get an answer. And then I think that's what frustrates people the most, not knowing what's wrong with you. And then I'm so glad that you come up with this where people can figure things out. And then I think this is also what opened the door for you to create this for more women. But with you, with 3 kids and doing this, how you even balance your life and your patients, how you do everything.
Say I have an amazing village behind me, that's for sure. My husband is wonderful. With regards to being great support, a great father to our girls, and he helps out a lot. He's the office manager at our practice, so kudos and shout out to him for sure. And then another thing is, frankly, I try my best to practice what I preach, Evie. I think that, you know, our symptoms are signals. They're sacred. They're not there for a reason. Fatigue to me is a gift. Headache is a gift. My breast pain, because if it were not for these signals that our body were sending us, who knows what road we would go down, or if we were to ignore them, right? And so that's ultimately the message that I want to make sure, if there's nothing else you hear from me today, that your body is sacred and your symptoms are signals, because that's where I was. I was tired and I was told, oh, it's normal. You can be a tired mom. I was, you know, finding higher sugars. That's normal. I was, you know, thirsty, whatever the case may be, right? We, for example, might have a headache after a long day and pop a Tylenol or a Motrin really easily and move on with our day. But that headache meant something. It did not just sit there for no reason. Whether it meant that, you know, okay, I've just stressed myself out too much, and that led to my cortisol being elevated and too much of dopamine, whatever the case may be, right? There's a physiologic reason why I have this symptom. So example, for me, I would get headaches fairly frequently. Before I knew about the world of functional medicine, I would pop the Tylenol or the Motrin, and eventually realized that I had a magnesium deficiency. Now I take magnesium every day, and headaches are few and far between. And I attribute that to my headache was a gift. It was a symptom, not just for the sake of me living in this human body, but it was my body shouting out, like something on the dashboard was lighting up. And am I going to ignore it or on the car, or am I going to take it to the mechanic and figure out why the heck this light is on?
I love how you put this in a different perspective. You know, I think a lot of time when you feel all the symptom and you're just like, why me? Oh, now I have to deal with this. But if you really consider your body sacred, and this is a symptom, is your body telling you what's wrong, and then to showing you that is actually like, it's a gift. You're right. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what can we do? I know it's not easy. Yeah, because when you're in pain, when you're flying up a headache, you're like, why me? But thank you for putting that perspective. But like, what can people do like, especially, I don't want to just pop into medicine, right? So it's like, how can I prevent or how can I improve myself in those symptoms? Or what's the cause? The hormone imbalance. I guess the question is, what causes hormone imbalance? What can we do?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question, Evie. And that's why I'm so passionate about the world of functional medicine, because again, it's really about the why and not just the what. So, our bodies are very intricate vessels filled with so many different organ systems, right? And it's hard for us to specifically say, oh, this hormonal imbalance happened because of something going on in my gut. It's never generally quite that simple. Like hormones, I like to call them a hormonal soup dance. Every hormone interacts with another hormone, which interacts with another hormone, right? And so that's why I think first, I call it the clarity path. The first thing to the world to clarity is to definitely decode. Okay. You
Mm.
have to test and not guess. It's really tough for you to swim in a river blindly. You have to
Yes.
know actually going on in your body. So first to even figure out why are my hormones this way? Well, what is this
Yeah.
way? Like am I having too much estrogen in my system? Or do I have too little progesterone? Or do I have too much of the stress hormone cortisol only at night, but a little bit in the morning? So those are
Hmm.
things that are really important, I think, to being able to decide what next steps do I take. But ultimately, I mean, for most women, being able to have something to manage your stress is so important. And I know we hear this all the time, like it's so woo woo. Okay, fine.
Lady, listen to that. Yes. Go on, doctor. Tell them. Tell them.
Tell you, Evie, why that is so important and why I didn't give a hoot maybe a couple years ago, but I absolutely understand now as I'm approaching 40 in just a few months, right?
Woohoo,
Is
happy birthday.
Thank you. When we enter the world of perimenopause and menopause, we
Hmm.
actually go through what I like to call the ovary adrenal baton pass. And what that means is your ovaries, which are those lovely little organs that sit outside of your uterus and they house all of your eggs that you're going to have for the rest of your life, right? When your ovaries start to realize, okay, I only have a couple hundred of these eggs left compared to millions that you had when you were first born, it starts to go a little haywire and sends out, an excess amount of this hormone so you can produce more estrogen and release whatever's left, please, right? At
Hmm.
some point, those ovaries do completely retire. They're done. So they make no more sex hormone for you, no more estrogen, no more progesterone. The only way, Evie, that you get that estrogen that's left is through your adrenal glands. Those are your stress
I'm
glands.
just smiling when you said that because I love that example you give, like retire. I'm like, I haven't even retired yet. You better not retire eggs, So like, how do you call the shot when I'm not even there yet? Yes,
Yeah.
but go on, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's wild because we are, high functioning women, so many of us in our 20s and our
Yeah.
30s, we're doing all the things. We want to go corporate, we want to own our businesses, be a mom, all these things
Hmm.
all at the same time. Not realizing that these stress glands that have to produce our cortisol, which is our stress hormone at the time, or DHEA, all these stress hormones, right? To keep us going, fight or flight, fight or flight. That's what we're consistently in. Just like you have a bank account that you have to deposit into and you have reserves, you can't deposit $5 and take out $100 and not expect to get some kind of notice of overdraft, right? And
Yes.
that's what we do to our adrenals all the time is we take and take and take, but we very rarely give. And so when we get into that point of perimenopause and menopause, when the ovaries are retired, and it's
Hmm.
saying all you've got left is your adrenals to produce testosterone. That's the only sex hormone that it'll make for us, which hopefully builds to estrogen, converts to it, yada yada. So,
Hmm.
anyways, though that adrenal gland, if it's not functioning well, if it's dysfunctional because you've overused it, taxed it, and never poured back into it, then no freaking reason you should complain that now you feel really tired in your 40s or 50s, that you can't, lose weight anymore, that you have bone, deep fatigue, that your bones are killing you, et cetera, right? Because we don't have the adrenals that are healthy enough to sustain this pass of the baton. Now, I'm not saying it's the end all be all. There are ways to recover your adrenals and heal them. There's hormone replacement that can give you back those hormones that maybe your adrenals can't do all on its own. There is hope. But I preach this to my 20-year-olds because they don't realize, we don't know, I didn't know that all of what I was doing, working my butt off, not getting to sleep, not taking some time for meditation or yoga or going to the gym and taking me time, that all would have an impact on me in my 40s and my 50s.
I totally agree with you. Same thing with fertility. That's what I really focus on. And then I realized by trying to have a baby myself, I realized your eggs is not represent your actual age, right? So you can be 20 something and your age is like 40-year-old, 50-year-old. And how will you know that? Like none of us would ever find out. Like she looked normal, she looked fine, And it was such a disappointment for many of us, especially higher achiever, because we do so well in school, career, we go. And then you finally realize that you have all this issue inside your body where you don't even know. And then I think we don't take care of ourselves. We think we're invincible. And as long as we just keep going, everything should be fine. So right. I really and that's what I noticed your book, Fill Your Cup. I really like the title of it. And then it tied back to what you were just saying. You have to be aware, right? And then take that as a gift. And then take care of yourself. Tell me about your book, Fill Your Cup. What was that book about?
Yeah, so I believe I published that book during the COVID era. That it was kind of, frankly, a textbook for me to follow that I realized maybe some other women and men could use. That we're just so often pouring into other people, especially those of us who are in a career that's service-based, right?
Yeah.
Or any career for that matter, but you're so busy pouring into your job, your family, your loved ones, etc., and you never really take the time to focus on you. And when you do, sometimes, God forbid, it's too little too late. And so I wrote that book really as kind of a guideline for self-care, not just about, taking the deep breaths and meditating, but from a physical, spiritual, and emotional and mental standpoint. Like, what are areas that we could do to build our bodies mentally, physically, etc., so that we're filling our cup. And that sometimes means that you have to say no. Like, that's a huge thing for me, is saying no is not just for you. That's something that took me way too long to figure out, but saying no is not just for you. It's for the person you're saying no to. Because when you say no, when something in your gut is already telling you that this is not, like, I don't have the bandwidth, this is not okay, I don't feel right saying yes to this, but I'm going to say yes anyway, right? When you do that, you are not only dishonoring yourself, but you're giving that individual only a piece of yourself. So they are not getting the full version of what they asked for. So when you say,
I like that. I didn't think about it that way. Yeah.
But it's true.
Okay.
Like, Evie, think of all the things that we've forced ourselves into yes, but then we realize, like, I really didn't do as great a job as I probably could if I really wanted to do this thing, right? So saying no to someone is not just no for you. It's no for them. It's being able to be in full integrity of the relationship that you have with that individual.
I love that, because part of the reason, I don't know if other women can relate, we're such a giver, right? We're the nurturer. We wanted to give. So for me, having a hard time saying no is because I want to keep give. And then for me to say no, I feel like I'm not giving. and I feel bad. And then I feel is not giving. But yeah, you're right, because when you can't handle everything, right? And when you say yes, when you can't be fully present yourself and giving your gift, you're not doing that person a favor either. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. I'm a people pleaser to the
Me
umpteenth
too.
degree. And it's something that I consistently work on because I'm always thinking about like, what does this other person feel and how is this going to make them feel? And ultimately, you cannot pour from an empty cup. I have so many amazing women and men in my practice that give their entire selves to their loved ones, to their business, etc. And then they come to me on E. And that is so much more difficult of a recovery than if they at least had a half a tank full.
Seriously, you are the princess of the hormone. Seriously, you're not just a doctor. I love your approach to the medicine and our hormone, our body is not just on the medicine approach, but also mind and body and spiritual. And you really point out something that I didn't see. And then this is the reason why I love like interview really inspiring women, because it really, I hope whatever, you never know, like whatever you said on the podcast, some other women listen to it can take something away from that and learn. Like for me, that was a big thing, you know, the how you say no without feel guilty. And that, you know, taking care of yourself, and that's amazing. And also the medical part, I didn't know PCOS have so many different type, and how like, yeah, it's just amazing. And then we definitely have to take a test on your thing. I love it. I love the fact that there's no blood draw. So I think that'd be very helpful for people. And just take a simple quiz on your link tree, which I'm gonna put that. Like, what would you, I always ask people this, right? Because everybody have their own journey, life journey, and it kind of leads to where they're at. Just like your personal experience, feeling tired, being a first-time mom, and you really wanted to help other women who go and do this. What advice you would give to your younger self looking back?
That's a really great question. I think that quite a number of years ago, I would have liked to just listen. That's probably the best word I can use, is listen. I think that especially as women, we're blessed with such a tremendous level of intuition, but society, the patriarchy, like who knows, there's so many things have told us to quiet that voice or not to pay attention to that voice. And frankly, especially in the world of medicine, when you feel like something's off, but you're told a gazillion times, your labs are normal, everything looks fine, go get some sleep, eat less, exercise more, like all the things that make you feel frankly gaslit in the world of medicine. But just in society in general, I would have loved to listen to my intuition, my gut a lot more as I was younger. That's the advice I would have given myself.
That is so lovely. I think as a woman, we have a hard time listening to that sometimes, especially in the medicine, I think, or the law, because it's so authoritative, right? It's almost like there's a system. So you kind of doubting that because that's the system being established for so long. To go against that, it's like, oh, what do I know? You know? So what you're saying is that we actually know our body, there's an intuition within us. So we just have to pay attention to it and trust it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. This is like amazing. I learned so much from you, Dr. Felicia, and definitely give us the link So we can take that test. I would sign up so quickly. So thank you so much for something that I can take without the fear of drawing blood. And it's actually much more comprehensive.
My pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me.